Hi, this is Emily, and I am wanting to wish all the pilgrims just the most wonderful trip. Lots of exciting things you're going to be doing. I'm really sorry I'm not going to be with you on this trip, but I'm going to fill you in on some things you really want to know about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre before you go. So if you don't have your booklet handy, put it on pause for a second and go get your Church of the Holy Sepulchre booklet. We're going to go through this and I'm going to help you understand what you're going to be seeing. Okay, now that you've got your book, if you want to turn to page 22, this is a floor plan of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and you're going to have a lot of opportunities to go and visit this. Father Mike will show you in the morning, Jeff will show you in the morning. You can have extra time to go there and pray. And it's a very significant pilgrimage site. People have been traveling to this location since the 300s and before that too, but we have documented records of people in 326 going to this location to see where the body of Christ was buried and resurrected, and also the mount where he was crucified. So this layout here, all of the illustrations that you will see in this booklet are from the same vantage point as though you are looking right at Calvary, right at the tomb from this spot right here in the courtyard. So when you walk in to the church, this is where all the pictures are going to take a look from. So if you want to put a little star there to remind yourself, this is where I'm standing when I'm looking at the illustrations in this book. It'll help you as you navigate the church in your free time, or at the day we actually go in and take a tour and have Mass. So if you're standing here looking at the courtyard, you will be staring at a doorway, and just to the right of that doorway is where Mount Calvary is, and to the left of the doorway is where the tomb of Christ is. And currently there is over the tomb of Christ a small structure which is called the edicule. And what's really significant now is this edicule is going to be under construction for the first time since 1927, when an earthquake hit the area and damaged the foundation or the structure. And since then, it's been held up by steel framework and scaffolding. And because of how the different denominations or the different sects of Catholicism that have jurisdiction over the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, they have not stabilized or fixed this. And they just put up these scaffolding. Actually, the British put in the one that you'll see currently in there in 48 or in that area because it was very unsafe. And the point of it is you're going in there, you're going into the tomb of Christ, you're going to be able to touch where he was laid. There's an altar there, and beneath it is the actual bedrock where Christ was laid in the tomb. And I'll discuss that a little bit more, but I want to tell you why it's such a historic time for you is because when you go to the church, they are going to be reconstructing this edicule by taking it down block by block, recording it, stashing it somewhere, cleaning it, fixing it, and then they're going to put the whole thing back together so it's stable and pilgrims can go in and be able to reverence this location without fear of it falling down on your head. The Israeli government finally stepped in and said, I'm sorry, all you people who can't decide what to do about this structure, we're going to force you to do something because it's not safe. So I'm not sure what state it's going to be in when you get there. It's going to be just beginning. The services, everything will still continue to go on, but it might be not exactly I'm not sure exactly how the state will be, but it'll be historic because you'll be one of the first people to see this restoration. And I don't know what stage they'll be in, if they'll be starting to take it down or what all they'll be doing. So I want you to take pictures for me and send it back because I really wish I was there to see it. Okay, so let's go through the book just really briefly. the main picture I want you to take a good look at is what it looked like in the time of Christ. So picture yourself standing in that courtyard again, and nothing is there but the wall of Jerusalem at your back, and then this would be going up on your right side. Right side. And you'll be looking then at Golgotha right here. This is where Jesus was crucified. And then if you look over here, there's some tombs in this rock cliff. This one is the tomb of Christ. You see its close proximity. This area in the time of David in the Iron Age was a quarry where they cut stones and they built the walls. You'll see a lot of this when you get there and kind of understand how they had to cut these stones out and bring them and build walls so they'd be close. But this part is actually outside the city of Jerusalem at the time of Christ. And so there's a road walking here where people would come into the city of Jerusalem. And so this rock, which had not been quarried away because it had cracks in it and wasn't very good for making large stones. So this part was left, and then this area had not been quarried. It's used for tombs. But after many centuries, dirt comes in and washes in, and this becomes a garden area outside of the walls of Jerusalem. And this, when the Romans came into power, decided this was a very prominent, nice spot to use for crucifixion. As people are coming into the city, they can see it. So this is the area where Jesus would have been crucified. And then close by, this is where his body was brought when, before the Sabbath started, they needed to put him somewhere soon, and so that was an empty tomb nearby there. When you get to Israel, you will probably see still on certain areas built in the rocks, there are dug out of the rocks are tombs. So this is not a particularly unusual way it would have been. So now you're looking at this and saying, well, how does a church get built over that? I don't quite understand. How can the tomb be there? And so I want you to turn to your next area. Is like 140 years later or so. This is during the time of Hadrian, who was a Roman ruler, took over Jerusalem after the temple was destroyed and the Jewish revolts. And he said, that's enough of that. I'm going to put a stop to all that. And besides that, I'm going to reorient Jerusalem so it looks nothing like it did when it was under Jewish control. He put a temple over the Jewish temple. And then here at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, he filled in that entire valley and built a platform over it. So now here is just the top of Golgotha, and he put temples to Jupiter and Venus up on top of this platform. And then for a couple hundred years, this is what that area looked like. Then at the time of Constantine, when he legalized or allowed Christians to worship as they wanted, he built several churches in the Holy Land to commemorate the life of Christ. And one of them is the Church of the Nativity, which you'll visit. Another one is the Church of the Ascension, which is close by to the Mount of Olives, but you probably won't go visiting it. It's not really, it's not visitable so much anymore. And then the church, this area, he said, I am going to build a church here to commemorate the most important event in the life of Christ, his crucifixion, death, and resurrection. And so it was very unusual to have a Roman emperor actually tear down a temple to a Roman god, which was highly unusual. But he found out from the bishops in Jerusalem where would this have occurred, and because they had passed on the tradition from person to generation, it hadn't been that many years, where this location had been, they told him, well, it's underneath this structure where Hadrian built the temple. So he went ahead and had all that removed, and this is historically documented, and you can read it more in the book. But then, on top of that platform, he dug down. So here now, outside of this massive church he built called the Witness or the Martyrion, which no longer exists, but this part was outside in an outer courtyard where you'll find a cross on there. This was Golgotha. And this part wasn't built quite yet. I mean, it was eventually, but when Constantine first built it, this was an open courtyard, and right in this little spot here where the tomb would have been, he had a small building or house which is called the edicule, like I mentioned before. It doesn't look like it did then, but this is the edicule built completely out of the actual bedrock where the tomb of Christ was. And you probably have passed this on your journey somewhere, maybe when you walked, I think, of the Kidron Valley, you may have passed right by this, but you can go by that and see how you can carve a structure directly out of the bedrock and it's still totally stone. So this area here was built from the actual tomb of Christ. This would have been the entry, and then it would have gone down a little inside there. And so all the rest of the stone completely removed. And so in the first picture you saw that had a large cliff area with tombs in it, all of that was removed away and just leaving this one structure of the tomb of Christ. So later, that big structure, the rotunda as it's called, was built over the edicule, and that foundations of the rotunda, a lot of that is original from the time of Constantine, although in around 600-ish, there became Muslim rule in Palestine area, and so a lot of the churches came under attack through different Muslim rulers, and at one point, why you won't see this actual edicule is because in 1099, I believe, around 1000, this is obviously AD, a ruler gave the command to have this torn down, and they hacked it with pickaxes, and all this was removed down to the very bottom. And the only parts visible today are like the base of this and the back. You can see it, you can touch it from back. There's a small shrine altar. I hope that's still available for you to do. And so over the years, this building, this edicule, has been reconstructed several different times, and the one you will currently see that is going to be under renovation was built in like 1880, and in 1927 was the earthquake, so it didn't stand for very long without having to be propped up with scaffolding. And so I'm really excited when it finally gets its renovation so it looks a little better. Now, the front of this, of your booklet, that is the front of the edicule, the door that you would go in for, where sometimes we'll have private masses in there. This is where you'll have a chance to go in and pray for just a few minutes in the tomb itself. So this is the entryway, and you'll be able to go into that area. So then from that period of time, after the churches in the Holy Land had been burnt and destroyed, the Crusades began, and so the Holy Land was the quest for many people to go and reclaim. And when the Crusaders did finally make it to Jerusalem, and they were in control for about 100 years or so, they built a church over the tomb and Golgotha and enclosed them both inside one church. And that's what you're actually going to see is the structure, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre that encases both of those. So on the next illustration within the book is from the Crusader period, and this is much how it looks today. And so if you're standing in the courtyard, like I told you to put your little star to mark where you are looking from the floor plan, then this door is the door you will enter. And then on this side, up here, these were the original stairs that went up to go to see Golgotha. You'll see Golgotha is still on a platform and higher up than the rest of the floor. And then on the other side, behind this bell tower, and there's a rotunda behind this, is where the tomb of Christ, or the edicule, is located. So you are going to have the adventure of going into this church, and there are many other places to go see. I recommend you take a look at the map and different places to go and visit. There's one area called the Chapel of St. Helena, which is, if you're going inside the church this direction, you will go down a set of stairs, and that is where there was a cistern there beneath the structure at one point, and that is where it's believed St. Helena found the true cross. And the true cross was used for centuries. There's several churches, you probably heard, of Holy Cross. There's parts of the Holy Cross in a lot of these churches. But the cross that St. Helena found was miraculous, and that's how she determined that was the cross of Christ. It was found in a cistern, and the book explains a little bit more about that. But you want to visit that and just take a look around the entire church and have a lot of devotion time there and experience what pilgrims through the centuries have been able to do, to just pray in those holy places and have Mass, touch the stone of Calvary, touch the stone where Jesus was laid in the tomb, and just absorb it all. And I just pray you have a wonderful pilgrimage, safe pilgrimage, and I want to hear all the feedback when you come back of what you experienced. So have a wonderful time, and God bless you.